Julian of Norwich was a celebrated mystic and anchoress of the Middle Ages.
Julian was born in 1342 in the city of Norwich, Norfolk.
In the 13th and 14th centuries, the city of Norwich was second in importance to London. It was the country's primary region for agriculture and trade. In 1381, there was a major uprising across large parts of England, including Norwich, known as the Peasants' Revolt. This had various causes, including social and economic and political tensions generated by the Black Death of the 1340s. The Black Death killed more than half the population of the city of Norwich and returned in subsequent outbreaks up to 1387.
Aged 30 and so seriously ill she thought she was on her deathbed, Julian received a series of visions or shewings of the Passion of Christ. She recovered from her illness and wrote of her experience.
Initially, Julian wrote an account of each vision, producing a manuscript, now referred to as the short text. She developed her ideas over a period of many years, while living as an anchoress in a cell attached to St. Julian's Church, Norwich.
This map of circa 1300 shows St. Julian's Church towards the bottom of the map, labelled with a number 7.
St. Julian's Round Tower Church was built in the 11th and 12th centuries. Julian of Norwich took her name from the saint of the church. Her anchoress's cell was in a corner of the churchyard.
The church was attached to the priory at Carrow Abbey, and the prioress and nuns appointed the priest and maintained the church.
An anchoress, or anchorite, which is the male term, is someone who, for religious reasons, withdraws from society in order to devote their life to prayer. They were required to take a vow of stability of place, opting for a permanent enclosure in cells, often attached to churches.
This is the modern entrance to Mother Julian's cell. It was stipulated that anchoresses should live in confined isolation, in poverty, and under a vow of chastity. There are images of Julian living with her cat for company.
As an anchoress living in the heart of the city, Julian would not have been entirely secluded. She would have had many visitors and enjoyed the financial support of the more prosperous members of society, as well as the general affection of the population. She may have been from a privileged background herself, because she would have needed servants to go out and get food for her. She would have in turn provided prayers and given advice to visitors, serving as an example of devout holiness.
Julian of Norwich wrote Revelations of Divine Love in 1395, making her the first known woman to publish a book in English. She wrote a far more extended version of her writings, now known as the long text. She wrote straightforwardly in Middle English. Julian's work has been preserved by others, and various manuscripts and extracts have survived. The first publication of the book was a translation of the long text in 1670 by the English Benedictine monk Serenus de Cressy.
Revelations of Divine Love is a medieval book of Christian mystical devotions. Christian mysticism refers to mystical practices and theory within the Christian religion.
Interest in Julian's writing increased with the publication of 3 versions of Cressy's book in the 19th century. And in 1901, Grace Warwick's translation of the manuscript introduced the book to 20th century readers. Many other versions of Julian's book have since been published, in English and in other languages. It is considered to be one of the most remarkable documents of English medieval experience.
Julian's discussion of the maternal nature of God suggests that she may have once been a mother herself. Some suggest that she may have even lost her own family to one of the many plagues that were around at the time. However, nothing in her writings provides any information on plagues, civil unrest, religious confrontations, or indeed her own possible motherhood.
The joint authors of the 1988 book, Julian Reconsidered, conclude that she was indeed a young widowed mother and was never a nun. This is based on a range of references about her occupation in life. It also considers a lack of evidence to connect her with the nearby Carrow Abbey, which would have honoured her and buried her in the grounds had she been a nun, or strongly connected to the priory.
Julian of Norwich is now recognised as one of England's most important mystics. Although she lived in troubled times, her message was always optimistic. She spoke of God's benevolence and love in terms of joy and compassion.
Julian is remembered by the Church of England, the Episcopal Church, and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in the United States. She is commemorated on the 8th of May.
Although not officially canonized by the Catholic Church, she has a feast day dedicated to her on the 13th of May.
Julian has been honoured locally. The University of East Anglia has a building named the Julian Study Centre. The bridge in Norwich, crossing the River Wensum and connecting King Street in the Riverside Walk, is named Lady Julian Bridge.
If you are interested in finding out more about Julian of Norwich, either historically or spiritually, we have links in the description below.
Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, then why not give us a like? And hit subscribe to see more of our videos on YouTube.